All right, so I'm going to talk now the second one about why William wins the Battle of Hastings. So we looked last time at events prior to the battle and how important they are. I'm going to speak today about actually what happens during the battle itself, and also look at the sort of the essay questions that you can expect to face. First thing to talk about is the makeup of the two armies. So, of course, famously, the Saxons is largely a peasant army. These are the Fyrd. These are the peasant soldiers who are gathered from the shires, and then they are conscripted to go and fight, essentially. These aren't trained soldiers. They're not particularly well armed. Just how well armed and armoured they are, we can't say for certain. But suffice to say that they are nowhere nearly as well armed as their Norman adversaries. Crucially, two crucial things that they don't have is they don't have an effective archery unit, so they don't have sophisticated units of archers. There may have been men with bow and arrows, but not in great number, and this is probably a big problem for them, because I think certainly at the top of the hill, had they had a large number of archers, they could well have been a decisive factor. Of even greater importance is they don't have cavalry. They do have mounted soldiers, but these men are being used as scouts and for carrying messages. They're not being used as a fighting force in the same way the Normans do. Along with the Fyrd, there's also the housecarls. Now, these are well armed and armoured. These are the professional Saxon soldiers. They'd be in the employ of thanes or of earls. And these men who will have the famous sort of kite-shaped shields. They'll be well armed with swords and with battle axes. And it's these men who are going to form the basis, the foundation of the battle lines, and they're going to be at the centre of the shield wall. These are, a serious, formidable fighting force in their own right. Remember, let's not underestimate the Saxons. They have just defeated Harald Hardrada's Viking army. They're a formidable force. It's wrong for us to completely dismiss them, but the Normans are a different animal altogether. So the Normans appear really at the Battle of Hastings. They are bringing in a completely new form of warfare. So against the old-fashioned, and it's good to use this sort of terminology, I think, the old-fashioned Scandinavian style of fighting, the shield wall, they are bringing in new methods. They've got their archers, they've got bowmen, they've got crossbowmen, they've got these in great number, and of course, crucially, they have the cavalry. Now, if you've ever stood next to a horse, a proper horse, not like a little show horse, if you stood next to a big racing horse or a big workhorse, I mean, they're absolutely terrifying. They're enormous things. And if you think what these would look like with armour, they would have had barding, they would have been armoured, some of these, with a 6-foot knight on top of it, carrying a shield and a long spear. Absolutely terrifying. A couple of hundred of those charging in unison. The Saxons have never seen anything like this. It's genuinely a turning point. It's like the machine gun, it's like the tank in the First World War. This is a huge turning point in medieval warfare. So these are our two sides. What is interesting and what is testament to the efficiency of the Saxon fighting method is that they do as well as they do. So they are lined up at the top of Senlac Hill. Harold gets them lined in battle order. The shields are interlocked. The shield wall is formed, and it holds. I mean, against the archers prove more or less ineffective at the start, and then against the infantry, and then even against the charging cavalry. The shield wall works. There's a reason why this form of warfare has been used. Why this form of warfare has been used for such a long time. It works, and it works very, very well at Hastings. So again, let's not just say, "Oh, the Saxons were idiots and they were fighting, in this old-fashioned way. They didn't have a chance." What they do all right for quite some time, but they are outmatched. They are outmatched by the Normans. So William has at his disposal these opportunities, these different tactics which he can employ. And he does this very effectively. Of course, the crucial moment, the pivotal moment of the battle, is one of those things that has to appear in your essay, is, of course, when the cavalry attack and the rumour goes around that William is dead. When this happens, one flank, and that's the word to use, the flank, so the flanks of the army are the sides. One flank of the Saxon army breaks formation and charges down the hill after the routing. That's another word you must use. So to run away in a battle is to rout. They charge after the routing Saxons. At this point, William announces he's still alive. It says something like, behold, I live yet, and by God's will I will conquer yet, isn't it? Something like that. And what happens then is the Normans rally. So you rally in a battle if you are losing, if you are routing, and then you decide, actually, we can continue to fight. This is called rallying. So this is, the rout becomes a rally, and the Saxons who've left their position on the hill are cut to pieces. Suddenly the Norman cavalry is able to work its full devastating effect against the Saxons. Then we get the somewhat thorny issue of what happens next. It's not up to him. It's not the scope of this course of the essays to really question the sources at this period. So we can say that the Norman sources suggest, it's enough to say that William then carries out a number of feigned retreats. So flank, rout, rally, feigned retreats. These are words that need to appear in your essays. They carry out feigned retreat where they charge at the Saxons, then they pretend that they are beaten and running away, and then the Saxons chase them down off the hill. The routing forces then appear to rally, and the shield wall is gradually ground down. And of course, this leads to the eventual end of the battle. So the shield wall only really works when it's en masse. As soon as the Normans are able to get around the sides, around the flanks, then it can't hold. What exactly happens, we don't know. The archers are... Allegedly, William tells his archers to change. Instead of shooting up, they're shooting up and over. And perhaps at this point, Harold is killed by an archer. Perhaps he's hacked to pieces by Norman soldiers. And there's that strange thing about this where they say that Harold's leg is cut off, and that can be perhaps a euphemism for his manhood. Whatever happens to Harold, it's not very nice. And he's certainly dead at the end of it, along with the flower of the Saxon nobility. So Saxon England dies at Hastings in many ways, just as Viking expansionism ends at Stamford Bridge. Just a few weeks later, we have here an end of Saxon England. And we've got this clash of styles between the old-fashioned Scandinavian shield wall method of fighting and this new battle lines, feigned retreats, cavalry, different types of archers of the Normans. And that's that, really. I mean, we all know this story, don't we? It's a pretty... Well, it's one of the most famous stories. It's very well known. It's quite straightforward. So I just want to talk briefly about the essay questions which you can face here. And it's only really one. It's X was the main reason for the Norman victory at Hastings. Something was the main reason. How far do you agree? Or to what extent was something the main reason for the Norman victory at Hastings? Or assess the reasons for the Norman victory at Hastings. I don't want to give the game away. These are all the same question. It's just worded slightly differently. It's why did William win the Battle of Hastings? And what it's asking you, this sort of question is really a factors question. It's asking you to examine the different factors, link them together, prioritize them. What is the most important reason why William won? Was it William's preparation that I spoke about last week? Was it William's preparation, William's tactics during the battle? Is it William's genius as a general? Is it the strength of the Norman? Is it the very fact that they have better soldiers, they're better equipped, there's probably more of them? Is it these Norman strengths? Is it the cavalry, the archers? Is it inherent Saxon weakness? Is it that they were unprepared to face a double invasion, that the shield wall and the Fird are out of date and out of place, and they don't have a chance of winning. Is it Harold himself? Does Harold make mistakes? Does he make mistakes before the battle? Does he make mistakes during the battle? Obviously, his big one is rushing in to fight. I know. I mean, I've spoken to somebody. I've got my own thoughts on this. But is he making this? Is he making a crucial mistake here? And is he falling into William's trap here? William is, of course, harrying Wessex, and Harold races down to fight against him. Does he have to do that? Could he have just waited? Is that the main reason for his loss? Or is it? It's a bit of a weaker one, I always think, but sometimes this comes up about luck. So was William just lucky? Of course, the wind changes at the perfect time for him. During the battle itself, you could argue that he gets lucky in this belief that he's died. But I think with that, we'd have to be looking at William's luck is really linking it there into his own ability to make the situation better. Just like, you don't get lucky in exams. People come out of exams and say, God, I got so lucky today. Just the question I wanted came up. That's not lucky. That's because you did your revision. So I would tend to prioritize luck below these other factors. So when I say X was the main reason for the Norman victory at Hastings, add in William's tactics, Norman strengths, Harold mistakes, Saxon weakness, you're going to argue why that's important, backing it up with relevant evidence. Information only becomes evidence when it's used to support an argument. Then you're going to talk about a number of the other factors. Slightly more difficult is assess the reasons for the Norman victory at Hastings. The only reason this is more difficult is it doesn't give you one of the factors. But it's exactly the same. What's the main reason? You'll need to think about events before the battle and events during the battle. This is a gift, isn't it, this question? If this one comes up, it really is. So, yeah, that's about all, I think. Cheers.